Hey guys, welcome to another Complete Developer Raw or Complete Developer Live. We really ought to come up with an actual name for what we're going to call it.
Sorry, I had to move the mouse cursor off of my face. I was sitting there like, what is that?
Yeah.
I get easily distracted.
He does. So tonight, I am drinking Fat Bottom, the Golden IPA, and Will is drinking Rockstar Pure Zero.
Yeah, it's left over from this afternoon. Just slowly sipping on it. This low carb Rockstar, this is the best flavor is the watermelon. It's still god awful. Just so you know, it's like a drink like that will last me all afternoon. Not because I'm not thirsty, but because I don't like drinking it.
Have you tried the teas? Like there's like a lemonade tea one that's non-carbonated.
Okay, but what about the carbs? Or is it low carb?
It's low carb as well.
Okay.
I think it's like 20 calories or something.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Anything I can find. Like I want one that's coffee flavored. I miss my little Starbucks energy drink things that I would drink every morning, like the Mexican mocha.
Yeah.
It has that like little bit of chili burn after it. It's so good. But holy cow, it's like almost all the calories you need for a day.
Yep. So it's the 5th of July. So those of you from America or that know much about us know the 4th of July is a big celebration. We both had the day off yesterday. I got a bit of sun. I don't know if you can see it in my face. I had a helmet on most of the day. I was out riding my bike. So that was a lot of fun. Kind of sore, kind of tired. It was a good day.
Yeah, I also had the day off. That said, I went to the Microsoft store with my daughter, and she was going through a coding in Minecraft thing. And so I was sitting there for 2 hours, and I worked up a show outline, and then kept on working on it, and realized, hey, this is actually probably 2.
Yeah.
So we're going to record those tonight. Other than that, I've got to suggest to everybody, stay away from Nashville traffic on the 4th of July. I don't know why I haven't learned this on any of the previous years, but I mean, it's an hour and a half to get from downtown to here. And I think on a normal day, it's probably 25 minutes without traffic being bad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in the mornings, it's about a good 30, 45 minutes to get downtown.
Yeah, and it was over an hour to get to the interstate, which was a mile and a half away.
I've been in that kind of traffic for concerts before.
Yeah.
I don't really go downtown for the fireworks. A friend of ours and I went over to Tailgate, it's a brewery out on this side of town, and it was funny as I was riding up on my bike watching the only people going into the parking lot were Lyft and Uber drivers dropping people off. And then everybody that drove themselves were walking. Like there were people a mile back walking. And like all the places, the churches and stuff had people out selling parking in them, like $5 to park at the church parking lot, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Smart. Good fundraiser. But, it was kind of funny because I was on my bike and I just rode right up and parked right up at the door.
Yeah.
So... we have a really awesome update for the podcast, too. We have water bottles. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring them with me.
We don't have them here.
Yeah, they're over at my place. I'm going to be mailing a bunch of them out this weekend. I just picked up some swag. We're going to kind of stuff a little extra swag in there for you guys that have been waiting for a few months. Sort of a thank you for being patient with us and
especially being patient with Cafe Press.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get them through Cafe Press this time. We went through a different company, which means we're going to be able to send them to you guys. I think Poland and Sweden were two countries we weren't able to send them to through Cafe Press. So I'm hoping that the U.S. Postal Service or UPS
or somebody.
Yeah, FedEx. We'll find some way to get them to you guys because now that we've got them in hand, we can do that. And so... It's pretty cool. If you've won and haven't sent us your address, go ahead and send it to us. We'll get one sent out to you with this batch as well. If I get it by tomorrow evening, so I'm going to do it Saturday morning. So, but guys, if you've won, be on the lookout because they're coming out.
All right, so we've got some listener questions, and the first one is, why do software engineers change jobs so frequently? And I can go ahead and answer that real quick. It's so you can get a raise.
Yep.
Every place that I've stayed for more than 2 years, I've not gotten any kind of increase in pay after the second year. They just kind of forget that you're there. Whereas if you jump around, you know, I can remember, especially early in my career, I jumped several times in a row and almost doubled my income in like 2 years, 3 years. So, yeah, that's why. There's also the situation where once you get comfortable at a company and, you know, like you come in, they put you on something greenfield because they don't want you working on the old system, you know, whatever that happens to be, right? You got new skills. They want to utilize you there. Once that app drops out, you know, it's out in the wild, then they want you to maintain it. And maintenance coding is not something a lot of people enjoy. And so that's also part of it. The other thing is it's not just software engineers moving around. It's also a lot of your PMs are moving around. A lot of your testers are moving around. A lot of your management is moving around. So 18 months later, after you get a job, it may have changed substantially, and it may not be the job that you jumped into.
Right. And that's mostly in the private sector.
Right.
In the public sector, you don't see this as much, mainly because there's not as many transitory openings.
Right.
People tend to get in and stay. And, you know, part of it is you got really great benefits through that. The other thing is you get in there and you can really get established. And you may move between departments. So I guess it's sort of its own ecosystem there because you move within departments to climb the ladder, so to speak. I know also a lot of times people are doing contract work. We've had several friends recently who, you know, every 6 months to a year have changed jobs because they do a 6-8 month contract and then they move on to the next one.
Yeah, I did that for a while.
Yeah. And so that's part of it too. A lot of times companies will bring you in to build a specific thing and then move and then once it's built, they have their internal people to maintain it because it takes less people to maintain something than it does
if you built it right.
Yeah, if you built it right. Well, there is that.
Yeah.
It should. And I know I'm shooting all over myself, but it should take less people to maintain it.
Yeah, the other thing too is a lot of people they don't notice what's wrong in an environment for a while, and so if you look at 6-8 months, that's probably when you're starting to realize where things suck. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people will start jumping then, and some of it's just kind of an overreaction. Some of it's also because the industry's pretty messed up in some spots, so that can be a factor too. There's a large number of reasons, but I would still say the biggest one is pay and advancement. Like if you come in as a junior dev. Let's say you're making, what, 45, 50K a year, say, Nashville market, and 2 years later, you're there. They're still treating you like a junior dev, even if you have advanced and you've worked your butt off to learn new things. You're not going to be allowed to do them. Yeah. And your pay will have gone up by 3% a year or some garbage rate like that, and inflation is outpacing you. So you're actually losing your hind end, especially if you're somewhere like Nashville where your rent is going up and your taxes are going up. That starts to hurt. And a lot of the real big, tech areas, that's something that's going on too. So it forces people to jump around. The other thing is companies are very good at throwing out a lot of cash to get people. And what they tend to do in a lot of places is they actually try to hire people so their competitors don't have them.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I think there's an economics term for that. It's they have them not really to get things done, but to just be there. Is it a Veblen good? I forget what the name of that is from economics. Sure. I'd have to think about that. I can't remember.
It's been a very, very long time since I've taken.
But there's a term for that. Yeah. It's and this, by the way, is why you have a lot of really screwy things in the environment, like your open office plans and stuff. It's like they know that hurts productivity, but it looks good. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. No. So, there's a lot of reasons for it.
So, next question we have, why is it so hard to find full-stack developers?
Because very few people are.
Well, that's the obvious answer. The reason that very few people are is because once you get into a job, you tend to get pigeonholed.
Yes.
And not always and it's not always like we're going to specifically pigeonhole you here. It's you show talent there, so you tend to get more of those, or you're better at one area or the other, and so you tend to do more of that. I know when I started at my current job, I was brought on as a full stack developer, and I did everything the first probably 6-8 months on that project because I bounced around helping out where I was needed. So I built tables, I built API, I built the UI. I mean, I did full vertical slices sometimes because I just needed an extra person to build stuff. And then I got onto the team I'm on now, and where my strongest point was API. So guess what I've been doing for the last year and a half? Mostly API. I get to do a little bit of SQL and a little bit of JavaScript, but that's sort of, and so it's another thing when you're starting out, you want a bit of a breadth of knowledge.
Well, you want to know where you fit, too.
Yeah. And then as you find what works for you, you tend to delve deeper. So I know C# and ASP.NET a lot better than I know JavaScript and Angular or PL/SQL or T-SQL and things like that. So like I know this area better because I've put more effort into learning that area because that's what I've had to learn to find out how to do things and stuff like that. And so that's one of the reasons you have people that they find an area they enjoy and then,
that they're good at.
And they're good at, and they tend to delve deeper. We like doing things that we're good at, and we like doing things that we enjoy. So we tend to delve deeper into that. I've had to actually put forth strong effort to be like, hey, can I help out on the front end, or to go out and learn stuff about Angular and JavaScript stuff on my own, take classes like that.
I'll also say from a management perspective, if you are working with your people, like you put them in the best place, right? But the other thing you do is you try to improve people's strengths more than you try to fix their weaknesses. If you're managing well, especially if you're understaffed, like you can't put somebody on the front end when they're not as good at that, and potentially mess up the back end because somebody that wasn't good on that got pushed in. So you end up in that kind of situation too. It trends towards not full stack. I'll also say that most alleged full stack developers aren't.
Yeah.
For one reason or another. Like a lot of your front end guys, you throw them on the back end and have them write a service or something where they've got to do multi-threading at a low level, or they've got to deal with all kinds of other stuff that goes on. They can't do it. Same thing with your back end developers coming to the front end. They can't make things look good. They can't make the UI performant or clear, or they've got a place that they're in, and they're not really a full stack developer. It's just they can get by, and that's what most really are. I would say that I'm that way in some spots. Yeah, like CSS, for instance.
It's funny. We're talking about this because if you guys are in our Slack channel, you saw what Dave posted.
Yes, and that's exactly
that is so great. I mean, that really describes it. And that's what I was thinking when you're saying that. I was like, did he post that in our Slack channel or in one of the other ones I'm in with him? So
yeah,
I had to go check. But
I saw that too, and they're always talking about they're front end developer, but they're actually full stack, or they're back end developer, and they're actually full stack. Yeah, and I was thinking that one cartoon. I forget where it is. It says nobody likes reverse centaur, and you have to see the cartoon. It's not really okay. Like watch where you pull that, but yeah. So that's what I always think of when they say they're a full stack developer. It's
oh man,
they're reverse centaur.
Right.
So the next one, speaking of reverse centaurs, I like that one. Good transition there. What is one regret you have about majoring in computer science? Okay, so I could list several, actually. Let's go into a list, because one and only one is going to be a little hard to. It's hard to pick the top one. I would say a really bad one is not being taught how to sell anything. And by that I mean, like when you go out and you do software consulting and you're going, okay, I'm a C# programmer, I can do anything in C#. Like, nobody wants to pay for that. What they pay for is for you to solve their problem. And if you really are good at selling to these people, what you do is you figure out how to make your solution to the problem pay for itself. And you sell that. But they don't teach you that in school. So that's one. Another one is a lot of the social interactions in CS programs, I'm hoping it's better now, but when I was coming up, you had a lot of people that weren't good at dealing with people, and they had very, very negative opinions of people like salespeople, people like, you know, that are actually interacting with other people, project managers. Those, I mean, they're like, oh, it's all about the tech, and the tech is such a small part of it.
Hmm.
Now, another thing that CS degrees will do to you is they don't teach you how to code very well either. Like, you've got to do that on your own. I mean, you're going to learn, yeah, I can program and I can make objects and I can do all this stuff. But, like, actually building real programs, you're not. You're learning about the limits of computability, not actually how to roll something out and how to get a product out the door. You don't learn that. You learn that in the real world once you get out, and it smacks you in the face. And a lot of people don't like it, and then they end up getting out of programming, even though they got a CS degree. So I would say those are probably my top three.
It's interesting because the first two are things that I think all of the hard sciences really could use.
Yeah.
I know when I was in medical school, I was talking to one of our adjunct professors. He was a retired family physician, and he lived in the area, so he came and taught a few classes for us. And one of the things that he said he wished he had in med school was classes on how to run a business.
Yeah.
He's like, they teach you all the medicine and how to be a doctor, but what they don't tell you is when you get out and start your own business, how to have employees.
Yeah. How to hire people, how to get through firing people, how to realize when you're being scammed.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that developers suck at as a group, we are horrible at office politics, and we're treated pretty badly, honestly, because of that.
And you know, part of it is I really understand when people say I shouldn't have to play politics. No, you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. But
I shouldn't have to die.
Yeah, but
that's
the
what I
fact
hear.
is, you do. I mean, it just because you shouldn't, just because people should respect you based on your ability, and you know it should be a meritocracy. That just isn't the way the world works.
No.
As nice as that would be, it isn't, and so we have to play the game as the game is.
Yeah, and there was a time period where it felt more like a meritocracy than it does now.
Mm-hmm.
It was better at one point than it is now. There's a lot more, infighting, corporate politics, interpersonal stuff in the mix, but people have to be taught how to deal with that and how to function in that environment, maybe even working with people sometimes that you don't like, or people that you do like and you're too buddy with them and you look like you're creating favorites. I mean, I've seen that one go quite a bit too.
Yeah.
They don't teach you that stuff in school, and a lot of that I think is hard to teach, but a lot of it people are scared to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things I kind of regret about the CS program. I mean, I definitely find that I stayed in it, but there's a lot of supplemental stuff that really would have helped. Looking back on that.
So, quick shout out to Joseph, who's joined us over on Facebook. Hey, Joseph. Can't see the people that have joined on Periscope and YouTube, so
hopefully some of you have.
Yeah. All right. So, if you guys haven't already checked out this week's episode, we had a really awesome guest, and we talked about progressive web apps. These are websites with a look and feel of a native application with similar functionality to native apps as well. In this mobile-first, device-heavy world, PWAs, or progressive web apps, allow us to build web applications that are able to access the native features of the device while running an application via the web. These features can include offline functioning, notifications, and app caching. They allow you to build one site that runs like a native app on multiple devices. It's really cool, very fascinating episode. We brought Doug Parker, who is a Google engineer, on to talk to us about building Google Bulletin, which is a progressive web application that Google has. It was really interesting. He had a lot of insights and a lot of things that Will and I both learned about it. It was really great.
And the upcoming episode next week that will drop next Thursday is on the basics of threading. While you mostly deal with a single thread of execution early on in your development career, there's going to come a point where you're going to have to do multiple things at once in a program. Now, a lot of you web folks, you're still kind of doing that, but you really only have to think about the current thread. They kind of tend to abstract that away in most of your frameworks so that you don't have to deal with threading, and there's reasons for that. Threading is crucial to understand if you want your applications to be responsive to multiple users at the same time. And things like Windows, it's actually necessary to understand if you need to update a user interface while a long-running process is going, because you can't, because of the way the message loop works. Threading is very complex, especially the further down you go, as you get closer to what the OS is dealing with. It's necessary to understand at some level for just about any programming, because the problems that come up from it will absolutely burn you, and they'll be just really hard to get your head around what's actually going on if you don't understand what the machine is actually doing. It's absolutely critical to understand if you need to write high-performance code. So you may have to do multiple things at once and do them in very, very short order with as little switching cost as possible. And that's something a lot of people don't really think about, although they do know about it in their own multitasking. They don't think about the computer doing it, like the number of clock cycles it takes to come in and out of a critical section versus using a mutex, for instance. I mean, we talk about this a little bit in the episode. We're going to go through some of the basics in this episode and kind of discuss some of the pitfalls. It's not going to be a deep, super deep lesson on threading, because that is painful. And I mean, I've been at this for a long time, and I'm still get burned.
It was mostly definitions.
Yeah.
And it helped me to understand some of the conversations going on around me about it.
Yeah.
And better understand some of the posts and things that I had read.
Yeah. So, and it'll also help you when you're looking at your higher level language constructs. Like, we do C# during the day. For the most part, we're not directly interacting with Windows threads. We're doing stuff that is multi-threaded. We're using the async primitives, which sometimes will spin off a thread. We'll use background workers and those kind of things, and those actually very lightly abstract the threading model. That's probably the best intro to it that you can get, but we're not directly dealing with threads for the most part, but you still have to understand them to understand how the higher level constructs are doing stuff. So that's next week.
All right, guys, we're going to hop off here and get to recording. We got 2 episodes to record tonight, so
yeah.
We will not be recording next week. I'm going to be out of town, so there will not be a Facebook Live, but be on the lookout the week after. We'll be back at it, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about doing this on Thursday nights. It's really working out well for us time-wise for when we're doing our recordings. So we're hoping that Thursday night works for y'all too, because we like it.
Yeah, and we're sticking with it.
That's true.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, because the reason is like if we go long, we're not exhausted all week. We're just exhausted Friday, and nobody cares.
And we can catch up. Exactly, because we could then catch up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Sleep in a little bit. So it works out. We didn't want to do it on Friday because everything happens on Friday night. I wanted to go out.
Yeah, nothing happens for me except for like movie night. But even so,
I'm single.
I like to have a night where nothing happens.
That is nice.
Yeah.
That is nice. All right, guys, we will talk to y'all later.